painful red ingrown hairs embarrassed me for nearly 2 decades every time I wore a swimsuit. No photos because, yeah, but if you know, you know. After testing everything, I finally made a 9-ingredient wipe-on solution that calms redness and helps prevent ingrowns fast. So let me show you my exact formulation, step by step, because you deserve bump-free skin, even if your skin hates shaving. The inspiration for this DIY was a store-bought product I discovered through Reddit, Tend Skin. I bought a bottle years ago and it worked beautifully, but at about $20 a pop, it would add up fast. So I set out to formulate my own. The key ingredients in Tend Skin are rubbing alcohol, which disinfects the skin to prevent infections and ensures the product dries quickly, and acetyl salicylic acid, more commonly known as aspirin. It has great anti-inflammatory properties and acts as a mild chemical exfoliant to help free ingrown hairs so they can become outgrown hairs instead. For my version, I wanted to keep the efficacy, of course, but lower the irritation potential and seriously amp up skin soothing. You use the product by shaking a few drops onto a cotton pad and then, swiping that over the angry area, avoiding any mucous membranes, and repeating as needed until irritation goes down. And after nearly 2 years of testing, I can confidently say it works. We'll begin by weighing out our ingredients. They're fairly simple, but there are a few tricks to combining everything so you don't end up with suspicious chunky floaty bits. Grab a beaker large enough to hold the whole batch. I'm making a 400-gram batch today, so this is a 600 milliliter beaker. And then weigh in the first ingredient, 120 grams of high-strength ethanol, at least 95%. The alcohol is essential to both the performance of the product and to make it self-preserving, so you can't substitute it out. If you're in a pinch, you can use 99% isopropyl alcohol instead, or rubbing alcohol, but it is harsher on the skin. Up next, the aspirin part, without the aspirin. So Tend Skin uses pure acetyl salicylic acid, and aspirin is easy to get, but it's not just acetyl salicylic acid. The tablets contain fillers like cornstarch and cellulose. So instead of aspirin, we're going to use its sort of parent, salicylic acid. Acetyl salicylic acid is made from salicylic acid and acetic anhydride, so while aspirin and salicylic acid aren't the same, they do have some similar traits. They are both chemical exfoliants with anti-inflammatory properties, and pure salicylic acid is a lot easier to buy. So pop on your gloves, glasses, and respirator so you don't inhale any of the pure acid, and weigh out 8 grams. Once it's diluted in the finished formula, it's much gentler, but we do want to be careful with the pure powder. Salicylic acid is usually pretty stubborn about dissolving, but it's really soluble in ethanol. So add the salicylic acid to your beaker of high-proof alcohol, stir, and then cover tightly. Check back and stir occasionally until you can't see any bits of salicylic acid. While that dissolves, we'll weigh out everything else. I've included 3 of my favorite skin-soothing ingredients to help calm irritation and reduce redness. 80 grams aloe vera juice, fresh or made from concentrated powder, 2 grams powdered panthenol, also known as vitamin B5, and 0.4 grams allantoin. For even more anti-inflammatory goodness and some astringency, you'll need 80 grams witch hazel. With or without alcohol is fine. And our last watery ingredient is 33.6 grams distilled water. Up next, weigh out 20 grams of a 60% sodium lactate solution. If yours is powdered, I explain how to use it instead in the free partner blog post linked below. Sodium lactate does 2 important jobs in this formula. It's a great humectant, so it keeps the product from being drying, and it pulls the pH up to a good for the skin level. The last ingredient makes the solution feel less sticky on the skin. 16 grams of a PEG'd dimethicone. The PEG part tells you the dimethicone has been modified to be water soluble, which means it will mix into this watery formulation rather than separating. If you don't have this ingredient, you can replace it with more water, but the finished product will be more tacky. Combine the aloe, witch hazel, water, panthenol, allantoin, sodium lactate solution, and PEG'd dimethicone in a second beaker, stir to combine, cover, and leave to dissolve. Let's check in on the salicylic acid solution. Well, it's looking good, but the water mixture still needs some more time to fully dissolve, so we'll cover those and leave them for a while. We need 2 totally clear solution with no flakes or dusty bits before we combine them. Once both solutions are clear, pour the water mixture into the salicylic acid and alcohol solution and stir to combine. Now, all that's left is checking the pH to ensure it's in a good for skin place. If you don't have a way to check the pH, please read the free partner blog post for more guidance. To test, make a 10% dilution. That means mixing 2 grams of the formulation with 18 grams of distilled water. Stir well and then dip in your pH meter. The pH should fall in the 3.8 to 4 range. If it's lower than 3.8, add some more sodium lactate to the parent batch, stir, and test again. As the performance of salicylic acid is not pH dependent, unless the pH lands above 6, I wouldn't bother lowering it, but it really shouldn't be too high unless you have made some serious changes. Package the solution in bottles with orifice reducers. I do not recommend using a mister bottle for this because you end up inhaling the alcohol and that's really not nice, but a roller bottle could work. To use, soak a cotton pad and swipe over irritated skin post-hair removal. I mostly use this on my bikini line, but it also works on underarms, legs, face, neck, anywhere you shave really. Though for eyebrows, I would use a little cotton bud instead of a larger pad for more precision. Repeat as needed until the irritation calms down. I use it several times a day right after shaving, but my skin is really dramatic. You might not need that much. And if you are buying salicylic acid for this, don't let it just sit in your cupboard afterwards. Watch this video next for an easy 5-ingredient salicylic acid facial serum. Happy making!